Our recent exclusive interview with Health South founder Richard Scrushy has a lot of people wanting to know the latest on the massive civil suit against him. Now, joining us this morning, attorney John Somerville, who is handling that civil suit. We appreciate you joining us this morning, John.
Thank you.
First, let's just talk about the impact. Many people were negatively impacted because of the damage that happened a decade ago to Health South. Talk about what it did to people's lives.
Well, there were thousands of shareholders who lost their life savings. There were thousands of employees who were loyal, dedicated Health South employees who had nothing to do with the fraud, who lost their jobs. They were devastated. And so it really affected a lot of people in addition to the company and the people who perpetrated the fraud.
Talk about how big that civil judgment was against Richard Scrushy.
The judgment was for $2.9 billion. And of that, we probably collected about $75 million.
So just that much relative to the size of the judgment?
Well, it earns $1 million a day in interest.
Okay. Now, relative to collecting to this day, people want to know, are you able to pursue any money from Richard Scrushy? He's living in Texas. Does that make it a challenge?
A judgment's valid in every state of the union. So as long as that judgment is valid, and it's valid for 10 years, and then you can renew it for another 10 years, we have an obligation, and the company shares our belief, to engage in collection efforts. And as long as that judgment's valid, I will take steps to collect that judgment.
Now, he has admitted in the interview I had with him that you can watch at WIAT.com that he is doing consulting work. He has a book that he's selling now, so you know there's an income of some sort there, so how is that pursued?
We can't comment on specific collection efforts because that gives the judgment debtor a heads up as to what we may be doing. But just suffice it to say, we will take efforts to collect that judgment as long as it's valid.
In my interview with Richard Scrushy, relative to the civil case, he said several comments about it being unfair. What would you say, and I know you've watched the interview online, in response to those comments?
Well, he had the documents that he complained about not having years before the trial. His lawyers had those. Before the trial, we actually had to give him, identify the documents in an exhibit list that we would rely on at trial. He was actually brought here and testified live at the trial. And so I don't know I don't know how he could say that he wasn't able to attend, because he was. Finally, he complained about a jury trial and the fact that he didn't have the right to a jury trial. His lawyers agreed that he was not entitled to a jury trial. You're only entitled to a jury trial with respect to certain claims. Finally, the Supreme Court affirmed the judgment. They affirmed the judgment, and he raised all those issues, and they said it was fair.
All right, John Somerville, thank you very much for coming in this morning and talking about this. Again, the full interview with Richard Scrushy at WIAT.com.